Last night, following the Democratic debate, one of Biden's senior aides had this to say. This is Anita Dunn, senior advisor to Biden, said, "It's safe to say Vice President Biden showed up to a debate tonight and for 2 hours graciously dealt with a kind of protester who often shows up at campaign events on live television." Now, it's easy to just sort of gloss over that, to just move past. But do you get how condescending that is in multiple different ways? That debate we saw, which was probably just by virtue of the fact that there were only 2 people and there was no crowd, was more substantive in laying out the differences between these 2 candidates than perhaps any other debate that we've seen so far. But obviously, the most clear way that this is incredibly offensive, dismissive, condescending towards Bernie Sanders to say that for 2 hours, as he laid out what he saw to be the many crises facing the American people and a detailed idea of what he would do to try to solve these, a demonstration every step of the way of the values that have driven his political activity and strategy for his entire life, is he's a kind of protester who shows up at campaign events. You're gonna try to appeal to not only this man, but to his supporters, the many people that you're gonna very soon want to support you if Biden is the nominee. And this is how you're doing it. This wasn't some random person who happens to like Biden. This wasn't a Biden surrogate. This is one of his senior advisors. What sort of advice is Anita Dunn providing to him if this is the way she approaches this massive and growing part of the party? Not to mention, of course, the condescension towards actual activists, people who would protest, people who care enough about an issue to show up at events and try to get people to finally think about it for a few minutes. I understand many people might find that to be temporarily inconvenient or a little bit annoying, but nobody can doubt that these people are driven by a level of passion that centrists in the Democratic Party never seem to even get close to. But again, just like with Bernie Sanders, that whole area, the activists, the protesters, people like Anita Dunn look on those people with, at best, condescension. There was a great summary, by the way. A lot of people responded to this, but Naomi Klein had a great response saying, "Let this sink in. Understand that all of us in the Sanders campaign are seen as nothing but trespassers on their party property, and they absolutely cannot wait to call the cops." I mean, that is literally the metaphor that Anita Dunn chose to go with. That this guy who's been working for decades to make the Democratic Party the thing it needs to be, not only to help its base and America be what they need to be, but to make the Democratic Party effectively invincible electorally if they actually supported the Sanders progressive agenda. But she looks on it, at best, it's an inconvenience. Every 4 years we have to go through this thing and then push them to the side and then pretend that we want their support afterward. By the way, little note for the sort of person that we're talking about here. In addition to serving as acting White House communications director for part of former President Barack Obama's first year in office, Dunn was a consultant to Harvey Weinstein shortly before publication of the 2017 New York Times investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct against the Hollywood mogul, seen as a pivotal moment in the Me Too movement. So yes, she worked to try to advise and do some PR, some crisis management for Harvey Weinstein in 2017. Understand that in 2017, that's about 2 years after prosecutors in New York had already investigated him for the number of very long-standing accusations of sexual harassment and sexual assault against this man. Now, by the way, I've seen the response from her saying, or from her team saying that she wasn't paid for this. It was just advice that she was providing, as if that's better. You could almost say, well, I guess if you're getting paid, you're gonna do whatever. But you're offering up advice without even needing to be paid to one of the greatest monsters of our time. And then you're gonna talk about people who are they're annoying protesters. Oh, so gauche that they come on the stage and then bother Biden during his coronation. And yet they go and work for Harvey Weinstein. Very classy, that. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.